Welcome back to another video in Simon Hurley's series, and this one is from his Christmas in July release, and I'll be using today the Sketch Santas and the brick little stamp, little background stamp, and let's go ahead and get started on this. Okay, so here we go. Now this video is going to be a little bit longer than you're used to seeing from me because there are a lot of steps to it, but it's super easy. So we're going to be using the brick background, and these are just the stuff from the new release, which is super awesome. I love all the little sentiments and the little snowmen and these are all sketched, so they're really super cool. I love them, and there's a lot of snowflakes, and there's a coordinating die set that you can get. But these guys, okay, stop it. You're killing me with these. Look how adorable they are, and their little Uggs. You got the presents, you've got all the sentiments you need, including a to and from, presents, a candy cane, just everything, little sprigs. And then here's the main new product, which is the Simon Hurley Astro paste. And I'll go ahead and kind of swatch these out a little bit, and I'm just going to swatch them with my fingers. And I'm going to swatch them lightly, but you can go as light or as heavy as you want to. And what you're going to get is that colored glitter. So that one is Crown Me. And this one, I believe, is Clear Skies. Yep. There's Clear Skies. And this will dry clear except for the glitter part. Let me get a baby wipe here and wipe my finger off so I don't contaminate my Astro paste. And this one is Tropical Tango, my personal favorite. So it might be why I did a little heavier on the Tropical Tango, or I might have just gotten more on my finger. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I love that. And this one is Later Gator. So they all match with Simon's inks, except for one. And one is something you guys have been asking for, so I'm happy about it. And then we'll go ahead and get, I think this was, I think it was Shooting Star. I'll have everything listed in the description box below. There's the beautiful yellow, which is kind of a gold. And this one is Bee Sting. So there are 9 colors. There's Bee Sting. And Prom Queen, of course. And you could also combine these if you wanted to get 2 colors of glitter on your project. Okay, the one before was, now I don't remember. Yeah, that's what happens when I make a video. And then there was a clear one that I must have cut off. So it's clear with kind of a white glitter. And I'm also going to be using this background stamp called Stippled to create my snow. So we're going to start there. Try and get this out. I'm always losing the little backer pieces for these. I don't know what happens to them. They end up somewhere, somewhere in the abyss. And I am going to be using my Misty tool. It does have the waffle flower grip mat inside of it. And I'm going to place my paper so that I make sure that all sides are hit. And I'm actually using a Bristol Smooth, so it is actually 6 by 4.5. And I'm going to go ahead and just place my stamp down into my Misty. Make sure it's stuck down on that one side so it doesn't try to flop off. Sometimes I'll just get my finger a little wet and then rub under it to get it to stick. And I am going to use my anti-static powder tool because I'm going to want to do some ink blending later on. So we'll make sure that that's nice and well dusted. Otherwise, when you're ink blending, you get a lot of white spots. Now, in this particular image, it doesn't really matter. But I'm going to go ahead and place first and mark all down along the whole stamp because my aim, even though I have it all set, I don't want to miss any. So I'm going to get it all, and then I can just clean it off my mat. Anything that sticks out the sides. And I'm going to go ahead and put pressure on it, and then I'm going to go ahead and use my little pressure tool that I made. And just make sure that I've got everything stamped down nice and even, but not pressing too terribly hard. And right now you can't see anything at all, and that's okay. You don't really need to. I can kind of see it. So it's shinier in the spots where the embossing ink is. And I did use Versamark for that. You can use whatever you have on hand. And then I'm going to grab a sheet of paper and my white embossing powder. And for this one, I'm going to use the Alabaster Brutus Monroe. I really like that embossing powder. So I'm going to go ahead and just dump it all over the image. Because again, you can't really see, everything just looks white, and that's okay. And I actually have discovered I prefer using a white embossing powder for this technique over a clear one. So I'm just going to tap that off, make sure there's no excess on there. And now you can see that the whole page is covered. All right, we've got that all cleaned up, and I have heat embossed that off camera, because it takes a little while because it's a whole piece, and still you can't really see anything, but we're going to set it aside and move to the next layer. So this is kind of a layered card, but not too heavily layered, and I'm going to take this brick stamp and I'm going to go ahead and get another piece of paper, and I'm just using regular paper now because the ink blending isn't going to be super important on this. I'm going to lay my brick stamp down in my MISTI, and I love using my MISTI tool for these. I just prefer it over laying the ink down, laying the piece of paper down over the stamp, because I'm just clumsy. And if I can move something, I sure will. So let's grab an ink here. And I'm going to use the Versafine Clair in the Fallen Leaves. So I want a nice dark ink for this, because what this does is it puts in the shadows and everything you would need for your bricks. So the beauty of this release is that all the shading is done for you on the sketched images and on this little brick background stamp. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp that down. Give it some pressure. Go ahead and grab my pressure tool so I get a nice even pressure all the way across it. And there we go. I'm pretty happy with that. So I'll take that out of there and I'll clean up off camera. And we'll move on to the next step. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be creating a little chimney for my Santa. All right, so I've got everything cleaned up here. Now I've got my Bee Sting ink, and I'm just going to ink blend over the top of this, and I don't want it nice and neat. I want it splotchy. So that's the way we're going to do it. And I can save the other part that I don't use for another chimney, so you can get, depending on the size of your chimney, multiple chimneys out of here. So I'm just going to draw some lines here to build myself a little chimney. Sometimes it's kind of hard for me to see, but I can kind of see. And then so I'm trying to do the chimney top where it does hang out over a little bit. And then I'm going to trim this out, and notice that I'm kind of curly cutting around the bricks so that they do still have kind of a brick feeling. So there's my chimney top. Now I'm going to take my shady ink pad and one of my little brushes, and I'm just going to edge this so that it's darker around the edges, give it a little bit more dimension. There we go. I'm just going to plop some right in on the images itself. And then I'm going to take my black pencil and I'm going to draw a shadow underneath the top brick layer. So it does look like it's kind of sticking out a little bit more, like you would see on a chimney top. And goodness knows, unless it's a brand new house, those chimney tops are not clean. So I'm just kind of drawing, and I'm using my Stabilo All pencil for this. And then I'm smudging it with my finger. So there, now it's kind of got a shaded look to it. We'll go ahead and pick that up, set it aside, clean up, and move on to the next step. I'm just using a baby wipe here to kind of clean up, because you know me, I'll get ink everywhere if I can. And now we're going to get out our sketch Santas, and my gosh, these guys are so cute. I think I'm going to use the little one holding the present here, and use a couple of presents as well. So we'll put him on the chimney with his presents. Let's go ahead and grab, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Oh, yeah, I'm looking for something to stamp on. There we go, Mini Misty. And then I've got, this is some, this is actually the Crafty Critta paper that I got from Crafty Critta, one of their brand new papers. And I really love it for alcohol ink, for alcohol markers. So let's go ahead and get Santa and a couple of presents out. I'm going to do the sentiment on a regular piece of paper. I want to reserve my fancy paper for alcohol marker coloring, which I've been doing a lot more of lately. I still don't have Copics. I'm still using either Ohuhu or I'm using the Spectrum Noir Tri-Blends, which I love because they just make my life easy. And, you know, until I kind of get to know my other markers, I'm going to use that. And then I'm going to be using Memento ink because it is an alcohol marker friendly ink. And I'll stamp 2 or 3 times just because I want a nice dark black image. And the Memento isn't necessarily terribly black until you get a couple of layers on. I can't get over these Santas. They're probably my favorite Santa stamps of all times, because they remind me a little bit, of gnomes, but those Ugg boots are just it. Okay, I can't help it. I love them. All right, so we're good with that. And I will speed up the coloring, but I will color them on camera just so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm not going to need a lot of colors, and as you can see, most of the shading is already in there. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so now I've got my dark red blend marker here, and I'm coloring around the darkest parts, and then I'm filling in with the lighter parts. So it's dark, medium, light on these, and just your dark parts are right there for you to see. You don't even have to really do much shading at all. But I'm going to do this present in kind of a hot pink, and then I'm going to do the bow for this present in a aqua, do his little face. And then I'm going to do the other present in a light and dark aqua. Then I'm just going to take some ice gray marker and just go over the dark parts. So there's those all colored in. Now we're ready to build our card. So we've got our Santa, we've got our 2 presents. Let's just go ahead and move those aside. And I have zoomed in quite a lot here, so my apologies if you can't see what I'm doing. But here is our white background. And what I want to do is I want to kind of lay out where I want everything, because what I want to do is spotlight Santa. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this paper down to the size I'm going to need. And I'm going to make that A5 by 3 3/4. So I'll be cutting off most of the top where the heaviest snow is. And then just a couple, just off each side, a little bit off each side. And the reason I'm doing that beforehand is so that I can more accurately place my spotlight. And I know you guys have seen me do spotlight techniques before, so this is nothing new. All right, so let me look at where my chimney's going to be. And I don't know if I'm going to have it that high or not. I think I'm going to make it lower. Okay. Let's see, let's grab Santa and see where Santa's going to be. Presents are going to get kind of like they're going down the chimney already. I'm going to see how that's going to go. So right there's where I want my spotlight. I'm just kind of making a mental mark here and scratching the paper a little. And then I'll take a pencil and I'll make a little X. And you won't see that because it'll be covered by the Santa. The trick is finding my pencil. There it is. All right, so I know that that's where I want my spotlight. And I'll go ahead and start ink blending on this. And I'm going to start out with no diving. I don't want to use the darkest blue in this case. I'm going to use this sort of mid-tone blue. And then I'm also going to be using the Remember Me. Okay, and I'll be using my blending buddies from Trinity Stamps to start this out. And I'm going to start out dark on the edges. And I'm going to leave that space where I've got my little mark very, very light. So I'm not going to not color it, but I am going to not put a saturation of color on there. I'm coming down around the bottom, and there's not going to be a lot showing, so I want it to be darker at the top and more light and wispy at the bottom. And you see I am filling that in to kind of blend those out. And then I'm going to go ahead and come in with the Remember Me, which is kind of a greenish blue, and I know it's kind of off the wall for this particular application, but I really like the two colors together. And I am grabbing a piece of paper that I can kind of tap off on. That way I'm not getting my ink too heavy. And in comes the Remember Me. And see how it just kind of changes that color just slightly, but kind of gives it a gradiated effect. And so that stippled that is heat embossed looks like snow falling. And there I'm just light coming in my spotlighted area. And then just coming around the edges in the darker. Okay, I'm good with that. Then we're going to take a paper towel and clean off all the excess ink off of the panel that we just ink blended. And that brings all the nice white color back. And then we're ready to assemble our card. So, all right, so we've cleaned up, and here I've got my parts here. So I've got my chimney, and I'm going to be gluing the chimney flat down onto the card base, or onto the card front. But I'm going to leave the top open because I'm going to want to tuck my little presents in. And I decide where I'm going to put it based on where my Santa is. And just glue down those little sides or the ears of the chimney. So that's ready to go. Now we just need to pop up our Santa. But I am going to trim a piece of red cardstock down to basically 3 7/8 by 4 7/8 or something like that. Anyway, just a tiny bit smaller than my panel. And then I'm going to glue that all down to a piece of white card base, but I am going to go ahead and do this with a 1mm foam tape. So it's a super thin foam tape. Yeah, and I get lazy with laying it down and trying to cut it straight. I just lay it down and then cut it versus cutting the strips. So I'll go ahead and pull those strips off, and I'm going to add some liquid glue to that. So everything that I used in the video will be linked down below from Simon's new collection, and including anything else that I might have used. So this is probably my PVA glue that I'm putting down so that I have some wiggle room, because it doesn't dry super fast. So that's one of the things I really like about it. But at the same time, I've got some room to move, and then when I press down, the portions of the tape will take hold. I just want to make sure this is nice and straight down on there, with even sides all the way around. That's ready to go. Now we're going to pop up Santa too. And I will do the pop-ups off camera. These are, again, 1mm little foam squares, and I'm going to pop him up right kind of in that light space that I created. And then I'm going to glue the presents straight down inside. So we'll do this one right about here. And I'm going to glue the front of it so it glues to the chimney. Later on, like right now, I decide that was probably a bad idea because I'm going to get glue everywhere. So I'm just kind of lifting that portion of the chimney and then placing my present down. And I'll put the other smaller present right about here. So like Santa's bringing presents down the chimney. He forgot his bag, just like me. Always forgetting something. There we go. Kind of get everything placed where I want it before the glue dries. All I have left to do here is a sentiment, but I do want to also add some of the Astro paste. And so we'll get our sentiment, and then we'll go ahead and get into the Astro paste. And I think I'm going to use You're on the Nice List. And in a situation like this, I do like to take advantage of my open space and leave it open. What I have here is, this is the white clear Astro paste, and I have here just a little, it's a little silicone brush that I'm applying it with on all the white areas. So once it dries, like I said, it dries clear, but it leaves the glitter behind. So it's a mess-free glitter pretty much. And let's go ahead and do the prom queen here with the pink on the pink present. And you could do the white/clear on all of it if you wanted to, but I think it's cool to have the different colored glitters. So now we're using Tropical Tango on all the little kind of greenish pieces, the blue-green pieces. And get some glitter going on there. And it is really kind of hard to capture the glitter on camera. But you see on the top of that Astro paste, the red that you see there, that's how red this is once it dries. So now I'm just going into all the red areas of Santa and the presents. And then I stamped out You're on the Nice List with some red ink, and then I fussy cut it out. And then any kind of stray edges, I like to just smooth them out with this little sanding disc that's attached to a, you know, an ink blending tool, because it'll get in those little crevices and it makes it look like it's been die cut. So super handy. If you don't already have these, you can get them at Ranger, and they fit on any of the blending tools. They do have some Velcro on the other side, so you can smooth stuff out. And I'm deciding where I want this, and I do want this down low. I do want to keep my finger quote white space. So let me go ahead, and I'm going to pop this up on some foam strips. By the way, all the foam that I'm using today is from scrapbook.com. I always grab it when it's on sale. Let's just get that little trim. We'll put another little strip along here. Okay. Get that set aside. I'm going to pull the backers off, and I'm going to go ahead and set that directly down onto the chimney. I do like to grab my tweezers when I do this, though. It helps me kind of make sure that everything's nice and straight. And I just eyeball it. I've tried using like T-rollers and stuff, but I really don't have a lot of luck with those. Now I'm just going to take my white gel pen, and I'm sorry I'm off screen here a little bit at the top, but I'm basically working at the bottom here. And I'm just creating some more little snowflakes, because that's what you would see. There wouldn't be like snow everywhere and no snow falling in front of the chimney or Santa or the presents. So I'm just going to fill those in with a bunch of little white dots from my gel pen. And then I'm going to try and I'm going to put some around the Santa and stuff like that, but you probably won't see me do that. I'm going to add some white snow, kind of like as if it's collecting here. And it looks like my number 5 pen doesn't want to really give me as much impact as I would like, so I'm going to grab a wider, probably the 8mm pen, and that's going to give me a little bit more coverage. Now you could use like bleed proof white or whatever you have on hand, but I just want this to kind of look like the snow's starting to collect here on the chimney. I'm just basically putting little dots. A little bit more here and there. Now, what you don't see me doing is adding some of those extra little dots around the presents, and then I'll do some on Santa's hat and so on, so that it all is cohesive and comes together. And what I did was I actually zoomed in too far, so sorry about that. Happens. But you can see all I'm doing is putting dots. Nothing major. All right, that's done. So pretty much here's our card. I thank you so much for stopping by and watching my video. And if you're a member, thank you so much for your membership. Please give me a thumbs up on your way out if you want to. And here's a still photo of my darling Santa. Take care all. Bye-bye.